Show you a few goals. Let's go.
Alright, so we're starting this weekend, and Serbia decided to turn the entire country into a Sportsa Motorfest map, and there's like 19 car events taking place between today and tomorrow around the entire country. There's like 5 just in Belgrade, and me and Plavi are going to try to hit as many as we can. Our plan right now is to go to the Volkswagen Auto Group show, the VAG show, and then tomorrow we have at the Belgrade Siam a supercar show. So hopefully there's going to be like at least some nice cars. I mean, some Lambos, Ferraris, Porsches. I'd like to see an Aston Martin, that Valkyrie I think it's called, that one of the newer concept cars. I don't even know if it's a production car yet, it might be. But that's our plan, to hit all these shows and do as much as we can this weekend. And I brought down the Mini with us instead of the TT, even though the TT is fixed and it is working. But we're gonna do a seatbelt swap today. That's actually what we're waiting for. We're 5 minutes from the seatbelt guys. Gotta swap into some nice blue seatbelts. But I just learned how to drive manual 2, 3, 4 months ago. So let's say like less than 100 days of knowing how to drive manual or starting to drive manual. And out of those, let's say 90 days, I've probably driven my automatic daily half of that time. And basically, there's about like an 80% grade, like a full, you're looking up how big this hill is. Because I mean, as you can see with our backdrop, we're clearly on some type of a hill. And I'm on like an 80% grade with a car literally touching me from behind. The guy in front of me, I'm leaving him like 3 meters of space because I could see it's obviously a hard situation. And now that I drive manual, I have a lot more respect, and like I think about the car in front of me now because I understand that it's actually kind of hard, especially if you don't have a lot of experience. And long story short, this hill also has a stop sign at the top of it. So it took us about 3.5 to 4.5 minutes to get up this hill, little by little by little, without hitting the guy behind me rolling back into him, without the guy in front of me rolling back into me, and finally getting up the hill to get to this coffee and the seatbelt. What is going on, everybody? We're joined today by Jonathan Dixon. He's a guy I've had a lot of interactions with on LinkedIn over the years, and I never actually had a chance to talk to him. The waiting room to this podcast, the first time we actually spoke to each other, that wasn't on text, on LinkedIn. We're going to talk about some recruiting stuff today, his experience dealing with recruiters, and just sort of like the general recruiting vibe through LinkedIn, and just general LinkedIn vibes probably at that point. But without further ado, let's jump into today's show with Jonathan Dixon. What's going on, man?
How we doing, Alex? How we doing?
Good, man. Good. High energy, low energy, all the energy, man. But we're here.
Trying. We're trying to find the energy right now. You know, it's I'm a early to bed, early rise, so this is like dinner time for me right now. But
yeah, I'm going to sleep at like 6, 7 a.m. these days, waking up at 2 p.m. So my sleep schedule is absolutely abolished.
A little backwards. I like that intro. Actually, I hadn't seen that. Your story about the hill, because I was just telling you about how I had to my car, essentially traded in after the warranty issues for a month and a half, and that whole time my car was in the shop, I was driving my old Jeep. I got to tell you, it gets a little sticky with the with that long clutch and that little 3-gear granny for sure.
Yeah, I'm not joking, man. I mean, I'm new at driving manual. I'm improving every day. I actually just brought in a diesel wagon into the fleet, man, because we couldn't buy those in North America. But I catch myself on some situations going into it. I'm like, man, please don't turn red this light, man.
Yeah, yeah, you hit those hills, man. It could get sticky for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know how to manuals like is, but at least we do, and we know it's not fun. But let's get into the show today, man. Let
Yes,
me
sir.
know how you got into logistics. I mean, what was your first role within the industry?
Yeah. We kind of talked about that, but as I said, for me, I kind of got invited into it. I had just left a coordinator position with the university, and I really wasn't sure kind of where I was going. Ran into a friend who happened to be he was one of the guys that would set up all the RFQs and do the pricing analyst stuff. Told me, I know a place that's always hiring. Of course, the churn and burn of the brokerages. So,
I mean, without naming any names, I'm assuming it's one of like those top 3, 4 larger ones.
you know what? It's tied to it now because it got bought out. I'll let you know. I first started with Global Trans.
Oh,
It was when they were still privately held during the whole transition through that whole thing. I got in early. It was about 2014 when I first got into the brokerage game.
I mean, I might be a little biased with Global Trends as I used to be a carrier for a few years. I always had a good experience. I mean, I've heard some stories that were negative, but like my experience with them was always pretty smooth. I mean, they had great experience.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, that initial experience wasn't necessarily a bad experience at all. It was a hell of an introduction, but it did make me aware of a lot of things, particularly like what we're getting into today with essentially the behaviors, kind of the processes, and I guess maybe some of the lack of education or development that's offered. While
sort of the corporate mentality behind
exactly, kind of building yourself rather than kind of being supported in the building.
Let me know where you started. I mean, you started, I guess, probably in carrier sales. You shadowed somebody for like
carrier sales. Yeah. Started directly as the brokerage, carrier sales. Get on the phone, make those dials.
Some freight, book some freight, man. How was the market out in 2014? I mean, that predates my start date by a bit.
I got to tell you, I believe I was the last remaining individual for my training class, but I took it upon myself to continue to educate myself and learn. Whereas a lot of these other individuals, they were punching dials just like they were being told. Whereas I might have been given a few talking tos, not punching up dials, but I was hitting numbers because I was developing. I was using my relationships and previous network to kind of build on, and basically right out of the gate within 2 months, within the first month, I moved my first load at $50 loss, and I never lost money on a load again. Never in my life.
You know what's actually funny about that? My start in brokerage, my very first week was DOT week, and I lost like $500 on my first ever load in carrier sales. And I was like, I went from losing money as a carrier the week before to now I'm just getting absolutely bent over in brokerage. Like, is this how it's supposed to be? What's going on here?
Both sides. So you switch sides, and then you get yeah.
I switched on the wrong possible week.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
So that was really the kind of the breaking moment. You know, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy the actual like applying of like strategy, learning how to get things done. Basically the communication part of it. It's never one thing. You're really learning something every day. You could have the same lane with the same carrier for years and run into something new each and every week, each and every month. And I feel like that excitement and that freshness is what really kind of drew me in a little more. You know what I mean?
Oh no, I won't even lie, man. When I got into trucking, I started on the carrier side, dispatch side of things. And I mean, I said to myself for like the 3-4 years I was in, I would never switch to brokerage. I would never leave being a carrier. I would never leave being a dispatcher just because the chaos and, like you said, the communication, the negotiations, like I thrived on that. I loved it. And it honestly probably took me a good like year and a half to come to terms with like leaving operations, to come to terms with not being hands-on every single day and feeling that excitement, because it's like addicting. It really is fun. Yeah, you enjoy doing that.
Yeah, and I mean, and even in that position, I've done, after I moved on, I did some, cradle to the grave, where I'm managing everything myself before I kind of
Yeah, okay. So let me set you up for that. I'm being a bad
Sure.
host here. So you do carrier sales, you're in global trends, stick it out, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 years, something like that. Or did you move up within global trends?
No. Global Trans was, as I stated, I was there during a transition period for them. A lot of changes, including a lot of, we'll say, commission structure changes that weren't exactly.
Agreed prior to the
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
Those types of things. I mean, a lot of things where operations teams, which was I was kind of leaning into, which was how I found my way into Cradle to Grave and in another institution or organization was. You realize that a lot of those other individuals getting their first time into brokerages are also in carrier sales, not in brokerage sales. So what they're doing is also trying to add that little more to their margin, and a lot of times that operations team on that side of the building is not doing what we're asking at from the broker side.
No, yeah, we've had those conversations. What's the incentive if you're
Exactly.
paying salary for the operations carrier sales team to save you that $20, $25 per load, $50 per load if they have a flat salary? They have no incentive to book at the best possible price.
So that's just another one of those learning things. It's not. With as much humility as I could possibly say it with, I'm extremely aware, and I like to really hang my hat on development and education and knowing the why behind the reason to things. I don't pull the trigger. You get in a position where you need to make an uninformed decision where you're going to have to make the best decision you can possibly make. But I like to be as informed as possible. And if I have an operations team that's doing things and not communicating with me and not doing things as I asked, that's obviously, it's another one of those things that it's a variable in the industry that you have to figure out and learn very early, I think.
No, I think a big issue that happens, especially, I fell victim to it too. Most people in logistics have seen one side of it. They're either on the carrier side, the broker side. If they're even within brokerage, like you said, you have the carrier sales side, the customer side. I think most people just kind of laser focus on their part of the supply chain and don't really zoom out to see, who they're affecting with their day-to-day choices down the line.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's kind of where I kind of found my off ramp from that initial brokerage sales, because I was never the dialer. I was never going to just dial to stay busy.
Yeah, like that corporate aspect with 300 dials per day has to be done. Doesn't matter.
Absolutely. You got your people that claim the numbers game is the way to go. You got your people that claim, your John Rogers that says every minute is worth $1 and everything's monetized. I feel there's a different way to do it. I feel there's compromise and solution and a better way to not necessarily, and maybe I'm digging too deep right now, but you don't need to fix or the industry as a whole. I think there's a root cause that comes down to basic education at the market makers level, that they have the ability to influence not only pricing accordingly, but they have the ability to influence how people work within the industry. I
think the education, I've been through, I'm lucky enough to see the outsource side of things. So I've been through a lot of these operations and I've seen the training programs out here. Some of them are amazing. Some of them are like, I've been through one of those training programs. So I was like, man, I learned everything. But then you see other training programs where it's almost non-existent. They're just like, here's the computer, here's the phone, like just start dialing. In America, it's all the same stuff. So I think that we have kind of a duty as an industry to improve our training standards, because too often you get on the phone with somebody from DAT and they just don't know what's going on. They don't know how to book the freight. They don't, like, just basic things like POD, BOL. Like you tell them that you send an email PU, like the pickup, like PU.
Exactly.
Like, what does that mean? And I'm like, yeah, come on, guys.
Yeah, and don't even the word Incoterm is foreign to them. Even if you said Incoterm, well, what's that? Well, that's a lot of things. You know what I mean? It's
but let's stay on the tracks here a little bit. So you end up getting into the agent side of things. You start doing your selling. You start building a book. What did that look like for you? What was your freight like? How much volume? All these kind of things.
Yeah. So I built that book leveraging my personal relationships outside of the brokerage before I even got there. Within my first year, I almost hit $1 million my first year in revenue at approximately 18.5% margin. So you could say
people cold call for a year and don't get a single customer. So
so you could say I was doing pretty well. And in this time, when I started kind of to see revenue coming in, that's also when I started seeing the issues with the developmental side and kind of like, what do I do from here? You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, you start making some money, you start getting some freight, and then you start seeing.
But then also that comes with the training and how do you get paid on that? Because you're told to make calls, you're told to book shipments, you're not told how you get paid your commissions, and you're not told, well, if, as far as extending credit and getting paid, the pay in situation, you don't get your commissions unless you get your pay in. So, a lot of these things weren't even discussed on the brokerage side of things at multiple brokerages that I worked with. So once again, learning and those lessons that I learned at brokerages like that kind of put me off into a more independent role, acting more of a, consultative role with a lot of shippers. I didn't actually work for or act as an agent working for any particular third party, like any other agents.
Like the typical agent model.
Right? Yeah. It was definitely not a typical agent life. I worked more consultative directly with the individuals that I knew at these shippers and these organizations. So I've worked my way around in a different capacity, which I feel like has helped me kind of put eyes on things a little different, have a different perspective for sure. So,
let's start getting into that side of things. I think LinkedIn changed my life. Let's start there. It's the greatest platform that I've ever made an account on. And I'm so happy that I did it and I started it. Yeah. And that comes with a huge but. There is a lot of great people. There are a lot of not so great people, a lot of misinformation, a lot of echo chamber stuff going on. I think the one that drives me crazy the most is the whole argument. If you're not an agent, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your life. You need to become an independent freight agent, or you're just going to make your boss Lamborghini money and you're stupid. And that's the narrative that's just daily getting hammered on that platform. Yep. And I think, it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to cradle to grave. Not everybody wants to be available 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Not everybody needs that type of money to enjoy their life. And I think that we've seen that narrative just too many times. I think there's like a lot of recruiters also that are just making the same post, like there's like 9 different companies with 9 different recruiters that are just making identical posts pretty much every single day. But what's your experience? Dealing with the recruiters? I know you've been contacted. I know like people have tried to recruit you. How's your journey been through that process?
Yeah. And once again, everything you just said is right on as far as, the platform and how you utilize it. Really, it's how you utilize it. And I have to say, preface that to that point, I personally think that everything in life, professionalism, character, choices and everything that you do are subjective to you, and only you have the ability to know what's best, right? So I say that because of LinkedIn. Basically, the pressure you hear people in this industry is that you continuously get this guilt essentially laid upon you if you're doing things differently and not acting in parity to others. And that comes even with larger organizations, small time or mid-time brokerages, acting in parity to C.H. Robinson or Echo or wherever, these founders, previously worked and found their experience prior to opening their brokerage. And I've seen that with a couple of individuals that I worked with that now have their brokerages. And it's like, what are you doing different though? Let me pose a question and you tell me what you're doing different than everybody else. How are you, what's your due diligence
what
like?
Sets your program apart from every other
exactly
program,
because I just don't see it. I simply don't see it. And I think that recruiting side of thing, you have an ability to really, are you still with me? Yeah, you kind of froze. Sorry. I think the recruiting side of things really, you have an an ability to make a difference with the face and the voice that you put out to make contact with individuals. You have an ability to show what differentiates you from all the rest. And in my recent experience, as I was telling you, particularly with the recruiters and the agent, on the agent side of things, and as I've stepped away from, the actual, booking loads, I've even made a list here of all the different individuals or institutions, organizations that I've talked to, and I can only differentiate literally maybe one. And even in that one that told me, different side of things and had an ability to answer my questions thoroughly and kind of with respect, it basically came down to, well, we got to put things on pause again and then reestablish, the posting elsewhere for new leadership roles. So it's a constant keeping up with the Joneses. I feel like you were saying, everything's redundant and kind of being copy and pasted. And I feel like it's kind of the same way that I see happening with the, applicable processes and major brokerages as well.
Well, you know what the issue is? I mean, I got really into the fitness space over the past maybe year and a half. And, I consume a lot of content. And I mean, when you're a content creator, you're always watching other industries, seeing, what they're up to and how they make their content. And I was watching something in the fitness industry, and some guy said, listen, if you're making money, making content in the fitness space, then you have to keep coming up with these clickbait titles. You have to keep saying, oh, broccoli is going to kill you. And next week it's like, oh, did you know that bench press is actually terrible for you? And the point is that I'm trying to make, tying it back into recruiting, is that there's only so much content these people can make. The same, it's just eventually going to end up just being the same thing over and over again. And that's why I've always said, listen, like, people do business with people, right? We know that.
Yeah.
Your post, just because you're a freight agent recruiter, doesn't mean every post you make 5 days a week has to be related to that. Yeah. I mean, let us know about you. Let us know what your company's been up to. Let us know what else is going on. It doesn't have to just be like, we're the best agent recruiter. Do you want the most money or the best tech or the best this or the best? And they all sell themselves as being the best, in the tech space. Yeah. Like it just gets redundant, I mean, I want to see some new content come out from these people.
And to that point as well, that's what, I try not to say it upsets me, because I think it's more ridiculous than any upsetting, but the conflation with the individuals that are in this recruiting space all essentially say the same thing and then will have or create some new opinion on how, it's different when I say it, but it's not as good when they say it. And I just don't understand how that drives engagement or how people buy into that when I just don't feel or see any authenticity or realness coming from, you know what I mean? Like, this conversation with you is completely unscripted and just letting it ride. But, you start to speak with a recruiter and it's almost like
some type of script.
Yeah. You almost have to fit the mold. You have to check the box because they're only listening for certain things rather than being open to what you may have to offer. And
because I mean, I feel like I've had conversations with a close friend of mine who's in the recruiting space too. And I mean, he's always said every recruiter and most, agent programs, they have like a certain type of agent that fits with them. But then the recruiter will go out and, like you said, listen for those little check boxes that fit their program, but they're not listening to you, the person, and they're not willing to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't come here, because they're looking at their paycheck as well. And they're not going to openly say, I think you'd be better off with a different program because we can't support heavy haul or we can't support this type of freight or this type of customer. Or, I think they're not willing to be open and they're trying to shove everyone into their box.
Yeah. And to that point, even I know more recently, like literally in the past week or two, I've seen a lot of kind of back and forth on LinkedIn with Levi and Matt and John Rogers.
John Rogers entered the recruiting space.
His new recruiting poll. So I've been seeing a lot of back and forth, about how, competition doesn't have to breed hate and all this. But similarly, to that point, just going back to the root of it, why would an agency only want a particular brand of individual. That's what if you have a strong-minded individual who has the ability to speak to people and has all the knowledge and experience to be a great agent, why would you say we can't do this for you because you don't fit these boxes? And even outside of the agent space, that's how I see it with the market makers and the big brokerages as well, when they're churning those damn sales floors with 500 kids. And it's like 200 experienced individuals that with a little more, salary in their pocket could be more efficient and get things done a lot better than 500 kids you continue to churn because they're not making dials and, being busy enough for you.
No, it's actually funny that you bring that up because we just opened up, Hammer Down Recruiting, where we're focusing on, staffing and mostly outsourced solutions for carriers and brokerages. And the funny thing is that, Ben Ham's always had the motto going into stuff like this, where he's like, listen, if somebody's good at their job, I want to pay them way more than anybody else is going to pay them because they're going to stay here. And at the end of the day, I know everybody wants to talk about culture, and I know obviously we want to make sure that we have a nice work environment, this and that. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters to talent is just paying them. I mean, that's all it is. Like you said, 200 highly skilled workers that are getting paid more than anyone else will pay them will outperform, like you said, 500 like lesser skilled people with lesser salary. And at the end of the day, all you have to do is pay people more, and you'll reduce your turn by like 90% immediately, overnight, like instant.
Give people a voice. Give people a voice. Give them a place of, respect where they have an ability to be heard. If they have an issue with something, figure out what the issue is. Don't tell them to get over it. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of these times it's managing a fraternity house when you walk into almost any brokerage and people hang their hat on it like that's supposed to be some type of draw. And
like that's supposed to be awesome that we have beer pong tables and ping pong tables.
You could, like I said, you could conflate the issue all you want with the fact that, but it's a fun, culturally diverse place and we have a good time with the ping pong table. That's great. What are you doing for my development going forward, and how is this going to help me grow as an individual and as a business professional? You know what I mean?
Also, you actually just got me to think, so I haven't thought about once in 6 years being in this industry. Like, if you're like a very skilled 40-something-year-old, in the space, for example, would you want to go out deal with that work environment? I don't think you would.
So I'll let you know. I just turned 40, and I told you, via messages, just in our conversations, that a lot of this. Not a lot of this, but a lot of what I've done in the last year was actually, with intention, go back and look at bigger market makers and 3PLs in the area just to see if anything has changed, applying only for more senior and leadership roles. And that was eye-opening, man. It was really, really eye-opening. Nothing has changed. If anything, they've leaned harder into. Yeah,
they've leaned harder into that experience.
Yeah, they've leaned harder into kind of minimizing expectations, and it's almost like they're seeking individuals who don't have forethought or independent thought. I've been directly insulted by individuals who want to claim my experience may not be satisfactory because they themselves, as a recruiter, this is the real story, they themselves worked as a carrier sales rep for 6 months, and they know what it takes. So
we've all heard those stories.
Right?
6 to 12 months experience. Now they're already out there. Now they're an expert in the space. And
exactly. And now they're recruiting. But that's what I mean. So now they move up and they're recruiting for one of these organizations, and they are the gatekeeper telling the organization what talent is and is not. So
hey, let's actually go through that. I saw a big debate on that the other day where I can't remember. I don't remember who was talking about all this stuff, but somebody was saying basically that if you've never booked a load in your life, you shouldn't be a recruiter. What do you think about that? I personally, I'll give you my thought just so I'm not walking into a trap. I personally somewhat to an extent agree with it. I'm not saying you have to be a 10-year freight agent, cradle to grave superstar or anything, but I agree that you should have some boots on the ground work. I know somebody had a good argument against it. I think it was John Rogers actually, where he's like, well, people hiring pilots have never flown a plane. I was like, that's a very extreme example because it's a very hard thing to learn how to do. But I mean, moving
See, once again, but that's conflation, even in that too. And that's that you stick to the bottom line here. You fly a plane, but that's a little harder because you got to say, here's my pilot's license. That was, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you have a certification to do that job.
Yeah.
Freight brokerage has none of that.
Exactly. So, boom. So, actually, I wasn't even thinking about this, but what you just said, and to that point, even about Recruiter, is I believe I said something, or we may have discussed this too, is I personally believe there needs to be some type of standard. I mean, if you're not going to maintain a standard for entry into an industry that literally oversees 80,000-pound death machines on the road, then
it's insane.
Then there needs to be.
They said the best point. Like their wife needs a certification and schooling to walk around a house and say there's 6 bedrooms in this house. And we don't need anything to move freight at all.
And then the big market makers lean into that by pretending to offer a 2-week to 4-week course in how to make a phone call and use their proprietary CRM. You know what I mean? And that's just
I'm gonna use that.
It's unfortunate. I believe it's unfortunate. I really think that as I've gotten older, as I've gotten more experience, as I learned more, I actually had more fun in the industry. As I was more educated, I believe not only was I better for my clients and myself, but obviously better for whatever company and organization I was working for. The fact that there's so many just convoluted, just arbitrary metrics that they would rather lean into, such as dials or talk time. My biggest customer when I was a broker that I could still get on the phone right now and probably ship something for them next week. All I got to let them know is I'm back in the game. My biggest customer, everything was done by email. I mean, I'd have days where I had $40,000 revenue days in a single day and not a single phone call. And then the next week I get my ass reamed because I didn't make 100 phone calls when I just had a $40,000 Friday. Like,
I think this is where it comes down to in this industry, right? Like you have these large operations are built for learning the industry. They're somewhat of like a university in a sense. I mean, even I used to be a plumber. I was a certified drain layer back in Canada.
That's right. Yeah.
And I worked in the worst possible company for the first 2 years, like disaster, toxic, horrible, worst experience. But I mean, me and the workers, we all had fun, just the management was crazy.
Yeah.
But it was a university, right? You get in there, you learn everything. And once you got your stuff figured out, you move on. And unfortunately, we have the non-compete, non-solicit stuff. So then you're out of the game for 2 years, worst case. But at least then you learned everything you needed and you're ready to get started. Yeah. And I think that's the power of the smaller operations these days because, you have more ability. Like they care about performance. They care about dollars on a piece of paper. They don't care about your dials. They don't care where you are, what you're doing, how you're doing it. They just care, are you performing? And I think that's how it should be, and most of the talent has exited these larger operations because of the KPI burn.
Absolutely. And even to your point too, might have been something else we spoke on, but everybody wants to jump onto the Montgomery CH Supreme Court decision, and me, I comment, or I communicate on LinkedIn. I guess very poignantly and deliberately. I don't go on there and share too much just kind of nonsensical stuff sometimes. But
hey, just hop into interesting conversations, give your point of view, and get the hell out of there.
So I've only commented on that, I think, once or twice when everybody's got something new to say every day for weeks. And one of the things was that I personally believe that this could be a huge benefit for small to mid-market brokerages. And while I'm literally reading like 4 out of 5 comments are talking about how this is the death of the small broker.
Yeah. I don't think so either, because if you're making the right decisions, it shouldn't really affect you. And I think the large guys are going to have these kids coming in making the wrong decisions and getting caught up in way more court cases.
Exactly. So
that's how I saw it too.
Yeah, I don't understand how. I would see this as such an opportunity for the smaller brokerages to just go hard. This is your time to invest. This is your time to go hard at it. This is your time to really, if you got new hires that are coming out of college, to train them deliberately, to train them with intention. If you want people to stick around, let them know that you value them by giving them the tools and the education they need. That includes recruitment, so that you find the right individuals that can come in and are willing to learn and are willing to work hard and not just look, I knew people that loved going to brokerage because they would get a check no matter what. All they had to do was make the same 100 dials and show the same talk time, and it was all farce. They weren't selling anything. They would literally have a list of 50 numbers that they'd call every single day that were the same numbers. And it was just like, just hit my numbers and I'm good with my 40,000 base. Like, why do you want that in your organization? But they're hitting their metrics.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the thing. Another thing I always talk about in this industry, I think a huge portion of the issues come from people that don't even love the industry. They're here for a paycheck. They're fresh out of college. It's their first job. They work 1 or 2 years. They throw 20 freight cars around. Then they quit trucking, never look back, and just destroyed 40 people's businesses.
Yeah. And it's because they took offense to something because they didn't know something. And then they were in a position to be obliged with accountability, and they chose not to be accountable.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this industry is tough. Unfortunately, when you're starting out, it's a lot of information. It's a lot of situations. And even if you've been doing this for 25 years, you're going to come to work and not know something. You're going to come to work and see something you've never seen before. Like my truck guy's brakes caught on fire one day. And he said it so casually. He's like, my brakes are on fire. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, my brakes are on fire.
No, literally. Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking? He says it, but they're like just on fire, man. I'm like, all right, but I mean, that's the draw with logistics, right? Like, you either love it or you hate it.
But that's also
just stop doing it, please.
Yeah, that's the fun about logistics too, though. It's it keeps you on your toes as long as you're willing to be accountable and work with some ethical integrity. Just say what it is.
Easier.
Keep working forward.
The more you learn, it gets much easier. But okay, let's wrap this up on the recruiting stuff. What are like your top couple, 2, 3, 4 red flags when a recruiter? Because they're going to just spam DM you anyways. What do you look out for? What stands out as like a red flag to you?
I mean, I wouldn't say that no experience in the industry is a red flag necessarily, but I would certainly watch about the verbiage and the way they speak to you. If they can't answer very basic questions using industry verbiage, or they seem to be confused by you asking questions like, about very easy things that they should know as far as commission structure, how payout is, or what your carrier operations team is doing and how they're held accountable, then you're probably going to have a rough time in any institution that they can't do that.
I would go as far as to say that they're not even recruiters; they're just HR at that point. Because I've walked in to do some interviews with HR, and I asked them like a random trucking question, like, "Yeah, actually, we don't know anything about trucking. You got to talk to the manager if you pass this interview." I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes more sense."
And I've had a couple like that actually on that list. That was bad. But I definitely think that's primary. I mean, I've had these conversations where I have personally gotten off the phone within 5 minutes because this isn't going anywhere. I don't think we need to continue this conversation if you can't answer these questions.
And I agree with you. Like, you don't have to be a 10-year freight veteran to do recruiting, but like at least apply yourself to, like you said, understand what you're selling, the commission structure and all this kind of stuff. So I think that's the major thing. That really is the major thing. I would say maybe secondary thing would be inability to speak directly as far as, maybe they have the answers for you, but they can't give you any type of timeline. They can't give you any type of, or they refuse to give you any type of, or we'll ask about it.
Direct answers. Yeah. Direct answers as far as, basically opportunity once you're within the industry. Cause I feel like, a lot of people want to know if they're in a career position or if they're going to be jumping into a job, they might be looking for something new in a year. So I've had people just literally talk around that and just not want to answer is, what's your turnover policy and what seems to be the primary issue with why people leave. And people,
that's a tough question in trucking.
People look at me like I just smacked someone.
No, that's a question. Honestly, I would steal too. That's probably one of the best questions I've never even thought to ask anybody in trucking. Because nobody's gonna answer that honestly, but that's a really hard one.
No, and that's the point. But that's also why I told you, I kind of in the last year I've kind of strategically dropped in some of those resumes at those organizations
Just to see
because
what's going on
yeah,
undercover kind of
I mean,
research.
I'm doing a lot of stuff on my own. I'm working doing a lot of angles on my own. I may be relocating back to the West Coast for another opportunity, but I love this industry. I still want to
honestly love
continue
it.
learning. So I'm still in it. I stay busy in it, although I'm not moving any loads right now. But I'll always be in it for sure.
No, I mean that's a conversation I had the other day with somebody where they were like, "Oh man,
Still
I
there?
hate this industry." Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, we got some decent internet delay, but I mean, let's start wrapping this up. Basically, somebody had told me I'm in this for my paycheck, and I'm going to get out of it soon, and that was like 9 years ago. So I mean, that's kind of the joke in trucking. They're always like after the first year, like, it's just temporary, but then you're here for 10 years.
It's that until they can find something easier.
Yeah, but it never comes around. Yeah, exactly. But for me, man, I hope I retire in this industry in some capacity. Like you said, it doesn't have to be slinging freight. I mean, I've already somehow managed to walk away from operations for the time being and get into recruiting and this kind of stuff. And I just hope in some capacity until I'm 60, 65, I will be in logistics. I mean, I do love the industry. It's just there's something about trucking, man. You just can't, I don't think any other job could be what this is. This is one of a kind.
There's not a lot of, I don't think there's not too many industries or positions where you really can bring, your whole persona to work.
Yeah, you could be yourself. It's like blue collar-esque.
And you know what? You're not going to get all the shippers with your own persona and your own personality, but at the same time, the customers, clients, and people you work with
will be like you and enjoy.
Will be authentic and they'll be real, and that's the best thing about this industry for sure. So,
yeah, man. Well, good luck on your future endeavors. Let's start wrapping up the show here, man. I got last question for you. It's going to be chicken wing choices, man. So, regarding chicken wings, I don't know how big of a fan of chicken wings you are, but are you a drums or a flats kind of guy?
Oh boy, I'm a any wing in front of me is going down kind of guy. If you got just a good meaty wing, I'm all about it.
I mean, if you had to choose, then the other one disappears forever. Is it drums or flats?
I used to say drums. I probably say flats now. Drums could go, but when I was younger, I'd probably say I choose drums. Now I choose. Yeah, now I choose flats.
Hey, I didn't eat olives when I was a kid, but now I'm almost 30 and I eat olives every day. So maybe my chicken wing choices will change over the years as well.
I think that might be the region too. You got a little region pressure with all that stuff.
No, we're actually not big olive fans out here, to be completely honest. Only when I go into like Greece. When you go into Greece, it's over, man. And their olives are way better too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, we're going ranch or blue cheese on the dipping sauce.
Oh, blue cheese, man.
Perfect. Yeah.
Stay away from ranch. That's overplayed.
Yeah, Midwest ketchup, as they call it.
Yeah.
And terrible. Then we're going breaded or non-breaded?
Non-breaded.
Okay, and actually we have a fourth question thanks to my last guest. What sauce, man? I guess I never thought to ask that. What's your favorite sauce?
Ooh, I got to tell you, man, there's that's funny you asked. I'm trying to remember now. There was a new flavor that just came out, and I can't remember where it is, if it's Detroit Wing Company or one of the other ones around here. But there's a Creole sauce, like butter Creole or Parmesan Creole sauce that's pretty righteous, man. That's probably my new favorite. Just had it like a few months ago. That's prime time.
That sounds interesting. And actually, you just got me to think of a fifth question we're going to start adding into the show. What is your favorite wing spot, and where do you live currently? Where is it located?
Ooh, yeah, it's probably Detroit Wings. I'm right here in Detroit metro area.
I was gonna say, do you happen to live in Detroit?
Yeah, I'm in the Detroit metro area for the time being. But I mean, Wingstop's never a bad choice. That's everywhere. They got all kinds of flavors that you could choose from and mix with. So
yeah, if it's good enough for Rick Ross, it's good enough for me, man.
I mean, it's a hell of an investment, right?
All right, John, thank you for joining me. Finally getting a chance to talk to you, and hit me up when you figure out what you're doing next, man.
I definitely will, Alex. I appreciate the invite, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Take it easy, bro. that's going to wrap up today's show with John talking about some recruiting things, some red flags, green flags, all this kind of LinkedIn recruiting stuff. Thank you guys for watching, and tune in next Wednesday for the next show.